San Francisco, 2012. 114 years ago, an event took place over 7,000 miles away. That event was so important that the people of San Francisco built a great monument to commemorate it. If you have been to San Francisco, you've probably seen it. What may come as a surprise are what it commemorates and the story of its survival. You see, this is a memorial to a great naval victory unparalleled in the history of naval combat. In 1892, a new flagship would be launched by Union Iron Works at Portero Point. 3 years later, that same ship would be commissioned and departed Mare Island Naval Shipyard, located in the northern part of the San Francisco Bay, to assume command of the Asiatic Squadron. It is now early winter of 1898, and war clouds have been building for years over the Spanish Empire's treatment of native Cubans. Then, on January 25th, President McKinley would dispatch the battleship USS Maine to Havana Harbor to protect U.S. interests amid the growing tensions over the Spanish treatment of Cubans. The Maine would explode with great loss of life the night of February 15th. This explosion would be blamed on a Spanish mine, and war would be declared that April. While the United States had been steadily rebuilding our Navy after years of neglect following the Civil War, we were still considered a third-rate power. In contrast, Spain had dominated world affairs for centuries, and concern over the Spanish fleets ravishing our coast ran rampant. As expressed by the mayor of San Francisco to President McKinley at the groundbreaking for the monument, the people living in this city, knowing the presence of a Spanish fleet in the Pacific, feared that our California coast might be ravaged, and they patriotically and gratefully regarded the splendid victory of Admiral Dewey at Manila Bay, and decided by public subscription to erect this monument in honor of the event. That event, the splendid and stunning victory, occurred during the course of a single morning. On the morning of May 1st, 1898, Admiral Dewey, his flagship Olympia, and the fleet she led crushed the Spanish fleet in Manila Bay without incurring a single death. That victory not only came as a great relief on our Pacific coast, but it continues to rock our world to this day. The victory immediately thrust the United States into the role of a world power and ended the 300-year Spanish occupation of the Philippine Islands.
What this monument celebrates was the victory of at that time, Commodore George Dewey in Manila Bay. And today, June 12, we are celebrating the 112th anniversary of the Declaration of Philippine Independence. What is the difference between that monument and the event we're celebrating today? 42 days.
Spontaneous celebration broke out from coast to coast, and 1 year later, New York City celebrated Olympia's arrival over 3 days in honor of the Admiral, his ship, and his crew. A naval parade with over 150,000 people on the water would stretch for 12 miles, and on land, over 3 million people would turn out to watch a grand parade in the Admiral's honor. Here in San Francisco, the Citizens Committee raised funds to commemorate the great naval battle, and on May 24, 1901, President McKinley broke ground right here in San Francisco's Union Square for the construction of a monument to honor Admiral Dewey and the fleet he led. Following completion of the monument, it was dedicated by President Teddy Roosevelt on May 14, 1903. Three years later, a catastrophe far exceeding anything feared from the Spanish fleets struck San Francisco at 5:12 a.m. on Wednesday, April 18, 1906. The great San Francisco earthquake had struck. Shaking was felt from Oregon to Los Angeles and inland as far as central Nevada. When the shaking was done, the fires took over and burned for 4 days and nights. The fires would level the city. This represented one of the worst natural disasters in the history of the United States, and it caused the greatest loss of life from a natural disaster in California's history. When the survivors returned to Union Square, like Phoenix rising from the ashes, there was the Dewey Monument, still standing amid the surrounding carnage. Then, in the 1940s, due to a lack of parking in the Union Square area, a plan was developed to build an underground parking garage under Union Square. The idea involved a private corporation leasing public land underneath the city park, which was new. Because of this, Union Square became a test case before the California State Supreme Court, which ruled in City of San Francisco versus Linares that the City of San Francisco had the right to lease the subsurface area to the Union Square Garage Corporation, provided that the park proper was not destroyed. So the garage was built, and the park and memorial were not only saved, but the memorial was strengthened in anticipation of future seismic events. Despite the odds, the Dewey Memorial survives to this day. USS Olympia is central to America's national story and one of our most endangered historic places. The fact that she could be subject to uncontrolled flooding at any moment due to the condition of her hull should be of concern to all Americans. I urge you to support the effort to save the Olympia, our national historic landmark.